Welcome to my class. My name is Bree, and today I'm going to be teaching you everything you need to know about one of my favorite childhood franchises, Monster High. Now, I grew up with Monster High, but I know not everybody was into it, or some people might be too old or too young for it. But you're in the right place because I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about the franchise. So, what is Monster High? Monster High is actually a fashion doll franchise that was created by Mattel. Now, each character in the series is some form of monster. They're actually the children of all these different types of monsters. So you have zombies, ghosts, werewolves, vampires. Pretty much every monster type you could think of goes to Monster High. Now, in addition to dolls, Mattel also released a bunch of books, a web series, and even 13 TV specials about Monster High.
Monster, monsters, monsters so bizarre. Monster, monsters, yes we are.
Hey, Vegas got me falling apart. Dracula stealing my heart. Claudine Wolfie make me holler at the moon. The girl you're a finest fish in this lagoon. Clear the now, you so beguiled. Even though you act so vile. And Deuce has stone cold style. These are my boobs, my skeleton crew. A little strange, but so are you. Don't you wanna be a monster too?
So this made the lore of the series pretty extensive, and I feel like that also helped boost sales. Speaking of lore, the titular school is located in New Salem, United States of Scamerica. And one more time, United States of Scamerica. So going back to that lore, in universe, they put this spooky spin on a lot of words.
Can I ask you something, ghoul to ghoul? Why are you going to the dance with my brother? Did I do something to you?
Oh no, it's not weird, is it? I hope it's not weird. I didn't mean to.
It's not weird, just as long as you're going as friends, right?
Oh yeah, totes. Just friends, bloodies. Hey, is that a new color?
There is a lot of little things that really enhance the world building of the series. But back to the actual school itself, Monster High is known for its inclusivity and acceptance of every type of monster. Because in the universe, Monster High is actually the only school that accepts monsters of different types.
Why do we belong at Monster High? Because every monster is welcome.
Freaky flies and all!
Usually, monsters will all go to, I guess, kind of like segregated schools. That sounds kind of bad when you say it out loud. But all of the werewolves will go to one school, all of the vampires will go to one school, and it will just be like a vampire only school. Oh my gosh, that sounds kind of bad. Anyways, Monster High was founded approximately 2,000 years ago, but the actual story and lore that I was referencing in those diaries and books and TV series pretty much starts when one ghoul named Frankie Stein comes to Monster High. So, as you probably guessed from Frankie's name, she is a Franken monster. And as a Franken monster, she can do things like detach her limbs, produce electricity, conduct electricity, and just general Frankenstein type things.
Frankie, redirect. I'm going to work on Plan B. I'm on it.
Now, even though she is physically 15 years old, Frankie is actually only 15 days old at the beginning of the series. So this means she was created 15 days before she first enrolled at Monster High. Now, this makes Frankie pretty naive, optimistic, and very eager to please and make friends. And I guess it kind of contributes as to why she's so clumsy. Maybe she's still getting used to her body. I don't know. But because Frankie isn't too well versed in the politics and world of Monster High, she serves as a proxy for the audience because she, like us, is learning about the universe. But luckily, Frankie had some nice schools that she met on her first day of school that really helped her grow into her own and learn more about the world of Monster High. One of the first ghouls that Frankie meets on her first day at school is Draculaura. And Draculaura is a vampire. So this means that once she unlocks her full vampire powers, she can do things like levitate and turn into a bat. Draculaura is also about 1,500 years old. In fact, to be exact, she's 1,599 years old at the beginning of the series. And in vampire years, this really just translates to 15 years old. Now, I don't know if it's because of this or her upbringing, but Draculaura is a very sensitive ghoul. Like, she's a vegetarian and she actually faints at the sight of blood and meat, but later on in the series, she kind of stops doing that. She's also kind of a crybaby in the beginning of the series. One time she cried because she couldn't see her reflection in the mirror. But as the series progresses, those traits kind of mature, and she is generally a cheerful and compassionate ghoul.
This is for
I'm
your own
playing because it's important. Okay, so I'm not very good, I'm not tall or fast or strong, but my friends need me, and I'm not going to just quit and let them down. I'm not that kind of monster.
Which is kind of a contrast to her best friend, Claudine Wolf. Claudine Wolf is a werewolf, and this gives her regular werewolf powers like enhanced strength, smell, hearing, speed, and all of this is further enhanced when she's under the influence of a full moon. Claudine is also 15, but unlike Draculaura and Frankie, she is confident and self-assured.
Come on, I know it's different, but just give it a shot. What have you got to lose?
Let's see. My dignity, my patience, my temper.
You see, already with a bad attitude, and we haven't even started.
I am not doing this.
She's super loyal to her friends, but Claudine is most known for her fashion prowess. So she serves as a really nice contrast to Frankie and Draculaura, who are a little bit more people pleasers. The final ghoul that Frankie meets on her first day of school that's nice to her is Laguna Blue. Laguna is a sea monster, but she's amphibious, so she can breathe water and air. Now, Laguna, as a sea monster, can do things like swim super fast, and she can communicate with marine animals. She's 16, and she has pretty much your stereotypical chill surfer girl vibe. So think of Bridget from Total Drama Island. Laguna is very compassionate and patient, but she's also not a pushover. And this makes her a really great swim captain on the Monster High swim team.
I try so hard. Maybe that's your problem, dear. Could it be trying too hard? That's what's messing you up. Don't drongo. Be natural. Be yourself. And you'll be spot on.
Now, the thing about Laguna is she's kind of often overshadowed, in my opinion, by her relationship. Her boyfriend is a river monster named Gil. And for some reason, Gil's parents think that Laguna is less than because she's a sea monster. And there's this whole generational river monster, sea monster beef. And this is like an ongoing conflict between Gil and Laguna throughout the entire series. The reason why I kept specifying the ghouls that were nice to Frankie on her first day is because not everybody was so nice. One of those people being Cleo Denial. Now, Cleo is a mummy, And according to the Monster High wiki, that means that she has the power to manipulate sand, she can charm snakes, and she has magic. But from what I remember, I only ever really saw Cleo use her family's wealth and artifacts to get what she wanted. Cleo is also around 5,842 years old, but it's not entirely sure what her exact age is. And this goes back to how she became a mummy. So, to sum it up, Cleo was an Egyptian princess way, way, way back in the day, as you can tell by her age. Her uncle sought to overthrow the throne from her father, and so Cleo, her sister, and her father were placed in this underground chamber and wrapped in this magic cloth that made them go to sleep. Thousands of years later, they wake up, they're now mummies, and they're stuck in this chamber. Eventually, they get out, and that's how Cleo ends up at Monster High. Now, the reason why Cleo did not like Frankie when Frankie first came to school is because Frankie had a crush on Cleo's longtime boyfriend, Deuce Gorgon.
And I see you came along too.
Yeah, I gotta support my dog, bro code and all. Yeah.
So, it wasn't because you missed me at all?
Are you kidding? Okay, my life doesn't make any sense without you. Don't leave for this long ever again.
Okay, Deucey, I won't.
Which Cleo didn't take kindly to because she is the queen bee of the school and she doesn't like any sort of threat to her position in the social hierarchy. As you can imagine, this makes Cleo kind of a Regina George-esque character. She's very arrogant and self-centered.
Enough talk. Talk is cheap. Not unlike Torlei's earrings.
But this isn't all of her character. As you can see, especially later on in the series, Cleo is really protective of the people she cares about, and she's actually a really good friend for those she deems worthy of her friendship. One of those people being Ghoulia Yelps. Ghoulia Yelps is a zombie. And because of this, she has resistance to extreme temperatures and pain. She can also turn humans she bites into zombies, but I don't think she would do something like that. She's 16 years old, and she is the smartest student at Monster High. She's also known for being a bookworm. She's pretty shy, and she's a big fan of comic books. Like other zombies in universe, Ghoulia can only speak in moans and grunts, which is called zombie. However, in order to become her friend, Cleo learned zombie so that the two of them could communicate. As a result, they ended up becoming best friends, and Ghoulia is Cleo's most trusted friend. Frankie, Draculaura, Claudine, Laguna, Cleo, and Ghoulia make up the main friend group of Monster High. And as such, they're basically like the main characters of the series. Pretty much, the series follows them and all of the adventures they go on as they solve these different conflicts using their different traits as these different monster species to come together and restore Monster High to its status quo of inclusion and acceptance. If you were to Google Monster High, you might get some results that are slightly different from everything that I've been talking about so far. That's because Monster High is currently on Generation 3, when everything I was talking about was related to Generation 1. So I figured I would do a rundown of the history of the franchise so that y'all can see how we got from point A to point B. So starting in 2010, Monster High is created. Now this is Generation 1. Monster High targeted this untapped demographic of 9 to 12-year-old girls. And I say that this was untapped because Monster High quickly rose to become the second best-selling doll franchise after Barbie. Now this means that Mattel had the two best-selling doll franchises in the early 2010s. And I guess this success motivated them to create the spin-off franchise to Monster High, which is Ever After High.
They told you everything was waiting for you. They told you everything was set in stone. It's an open book, a road in reverse, a brand new hook. Forget that curse, rewrite, ignite, restart. 'Cause it's your life. Oh, rewind. 'Cause you're royal, you're rebel, you're more than one together. However you go, ever and ever after high.
So Ever After High has a similar concept to Monster High, but instead of focusing on monster children, Ever After High focuses on the descendants, keep that in mind, of fairy tale figures. It's also important to note that Mattel also held the licenses to produce the toys for other franchises that they didn't create. And the most notable license that they held at this time was the license to produce the Disney princess dolls. Now, this was really good for Mattel because Monster High gave them that preteen market, and the Disney dolls gave them access to that younger girl market. So they pretty much had the whole shebang. Now, in 2014, the quality of Mattel's dolls just starts going down. I don't know if they were trying to maximize profits or they were cutting corners, but the dolls are just noticeably worse, which didn't go over well with fans. In 2015, Descendants by Disney dropped. Now, if you're familiar with Descendants, it is also a franchise about the children of fairy tale figures. So this puts them in direct competition with Ever After High. And so between the dropping quality of Mattel's products and Descendants coming out, these two things could have motivated Disney to leave Mattel and switch their license for the Disney princess dolls to Hasbro. Now, this is bad for Mattel because the license for Disney princess dolls was a big chunk of their revenue and also their access to, as I mentioned before, that younger demographic. So in 2016, in response to the loss in revenue, Mattel starts really focusing on their bread and butter, which is Barbie. At this time, they start producing Barbies that are, I believe, different body types and skin tones to tap back in and reel in consumers. In 2016, Monster High is also soft rebooted to Generation 2. And I say soft rebooted because Monster High was never officially canceled, but they did refresh the story and the character designs of Monster High. So in Monster High, these dolls are noticeably bigger eyed and softer face, and I also believe a little bit shorter. And I think this was appeal to the younger demographic that they lost when they lost that Disney license. And also, I would like to take this time to point out that the first generation of Monster High was kind of moderately criticized by parents. So some parents found the Ghouls to be too materialistic, boy crazy, and mature. Like they were wearing high heels and short skirts, and they didn't think that that was appropriate for girls of their age, and subsequently their children to consume. Now, me personally, I was the target demographic for Monster High around this time. And I remember Monster High as something that I really enjoyed as a child because I got to see these really feminine characters depicted as feminine but also capable. So all of these differences between the Ghouls were never used as a detriment in the storyline. All of these Ghouls were depicted as embracing their femininity but also being athletic or compassionate or smart or observant or assertive, just things that I thought were really positive traits as a child. And so I would basically just say that Monster High teaches you how to be a bad bitch. And I guess some parents didn't want their kids to be a bad bitch, but what do I know? I'm not a parent. Hold on, time out. I need to make a disclaimer here. I had a positive experience with Monster High growing up, but I recognize that this was not the case for everyone. All of the Monster High dolls are skinny, and this very heavily promotes eating disorders and body dysmorphia. There's also a lot of culturally insensitive characters. For example, there's Skeleta and Jennifer, who were both from Scaris City of Fright. I say this to say that even though Monster High was enjoyable and did a lot of things well, there's also a lot of things that it got wrong. So I just want to be clear that I don't think that Monster High is flawless by any means. But with that being said, let's keep going. Anyways, in 2018, Monster High is officially canceled. Womp womp. Boom, they're done. But Monster High would make a comeback in 2022 with Generation 3. So Generation 3 launched with a live action Nickelodeon movie, and they currently have an animated Nickelodeon series that has 2 seasons as of this video. To my knowledge, that series also has been canceled. A lot of G1 fans take problems with Generation 3, but I personally don't have a problem with Generation 3. Do I think that they could have just made a new set of characters instead of changing the already existing characters? Yeah, but I also do recognize that a lot of creativity and effort went into designing the original characters, and so it's probably easier just to tweak existing characters than to create entirely new ones. Now, I also think that Generation 3 really embraces the original theme of Monster High, which is to be inclusive, diverse, and accept people as they are. The reason why I say this is G3 depicts all sorts of different things that G1 didn't. For example, G3 dolls have diverse body types. Some of the characters are neurodivergent, and Frankie even uses they, them pronouns and has a prosthetic leg. And so I feel like Generation 3 is really good for the children of today because one, it can introduce them to these differences in people that they might not fully know how to articulate yet. But two, it can also open up a dialogue between parents and children about how to be accepting of people who are different from them. So overall, I don't really have a huge problem with G3. And also, I'm a grown adult. Like, I'm not the target demographic. So even if I did have a problem, I'm not the one that's watching the show or buying the dolls. So why does my opinion even matter? So I wish Generation 3 all the success.
My first weekend home since, well, I found out that monsters were real, discovered Monster High, and realized that I'm a werewolf.
I absolutely require that you send pics of all the human stuff that you do.
Cleo, she's telling her dad she's a werewolf.
And getting big, warm dad hugs after he finds out.
I hope so. My dad's usually super supportive, but anytime I mention monster stuff, he gets all weird.
I would like to take this time to thank you for making it to the end of the video. I hope you found it informative. I hope that you could read my handwriting, and I hope to see you in the next one. So, without further ado, class is dismissed. Bye.